All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. We got some Monday Night Football week number 3. We have 2 Monday Night Football games this week. We've already posted, and it is live now on the channel at the time of you guys watching this. The Bills and Jacksonville game, we already have a separate video for that, so make sure to go check that out. In today's video, in this video, we're going to be diving into the Bengals and the Commanders game. I'm going to give you my lean on the side. I'll give you my lean on the total. I have a few player prop spots that I'm liking within this game as well, but as always, guys, keep an eye on the pinned comment of this video. If you do want to fade me, all of my final plays are going to be listed over there. Before we do get into this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well. I just have to say thank you. You guys have been absolutely amazing to start this NFL season. If you're not aware, this is my first NFL season while doing this full time, as we just went full time, quit the 9 to 5 back in March. So March 1st was our first day. So this is the first NFL season doing this full time, and I could not be more pleased and just appreciative of all the support and love that we're getting. So appreciate the heck out of you guys. But yeah, right now we have the Bengals sitting at 7.5-point favorites. Washington coming off of a win, which the Bengals are yet to be able to say, as they are 0-2. They lose to the Patriots, they lose to Kansas City, but Washington, after their week 1 loss, kind of blowout to Tampa Bay, they battle back and beat the Giants 21-18. The total here sitting at 47.5. Let's start with what I'm thinking on the spread side of things. So just a little bit about both of these teams. So far through this season, we've seen Washington, and again, it's small sample size, right? A lot of this is like, I think, or if, because we only have 2 games under our belt. But nonetheless, Washington's pass defense hasn't looked all that great. In fact, it's been pretty damn bad. Now, a lot of the numbers are skewed due to the fact that Baker went for, 1,000,000 yards, 1,000,000 touchdowns, and put up 37 points against them. But if you read between the lines and even look at what happened last week, like Danny Dingleberry, Daniel Jones goes off, and no, he doesn't throw for 200 yards, but he throws for 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And that is saying a lot given the state of the Giants offense. You know what I mean? So there's a glaring weakness for Washington, but I think that we can kind of even counter that and say, well, has Joe Burrow been clicking? Not so much, honestly. I mean, he's definitely gotten better from week 1 into week 2. Like, he didn't look all that bad against Kansas City, but I wouldn't put a feather in their cap just yet. Like, he has not looked all that great. And Jamar Chase has not gotten going, right? He hasn't even gotten to 100 yards over these 2 games combined. So their passing offense hasn't looked all that great. So maybe that, mitigates the Washington weakness to some degree. We'll see. In terms of where Cincinnati's been a little weak, it's been on the ground. Ramondre Stevenson and then Pacheco were the 2 running backs, so maybe we give them a little bit of a leash too, because they went up against 2 really good, hard running backs. But with Robinson and Eckler in the backfield here for Washington, those guys aren't half that bad either. So both of these 2 teams and their weaknesses, I would say to some degree, have excuses or offset. But to me, this is still a Cincy team that has a little bit more firepower. Joe Burrow, better than Daniels as of right now, right? And then you have Jamar Chase, better than McLaurin, that type of thing. The running backs, I guess you can make an argument for, but I want to see Robinson kind of do it consistently before we kind of crown him that. But in this spot here, I do think Cincinnati wins the game. But 7.5 points, like, I don't know if I've seen enough out of them. Now, if you want to put a big sort of like weight towards that Kansas City game, in which, yeah, they could have beat the reigning Super Bowl champions, I hear you. But I just have not seen enough for me to say, okay, I can comfortably lay over a score, 7.5 points. So I'll sound the psycho alert alarm here. I think in terms of my spread lean, I'm leaning towards Washington. Now, before you jump down my throat in the comment section, I don't know if I have the cojones to actually pull the trigger on this play, so definitely keep an eye on the pinned comment. But what I do know is that heading into this game, with the Bengals minus 7.5 in my pocket, that ticket in my pocket, I wouldn't feel all that comfortable doing that either. So this game probably turns into something that maybe we throw out like a same game parlay, which Ev picks on Instagram. It just popped up. We post a lot of same game parlays for these primetime games. Maybe we start to massage numbers and finagle the bagel over there with sort of how we can play this one. But from a straight spread perspective, yes, I don't love Washington plus 7.5, but I think I'd be a little bit more shaken in my boots having that Bengals minus 7.5. So that's my lean in terms of the spread. But again, we have a few player props that we're liking as well. When we get to this total, 47.5, so we've seen Washington 37-20, but again, that was kind of carried by, obviously, the Tampa Bay Bucks, and then they have a 21-18 game. So their scoring output so far, 20 and 21, really hasn't been enough to cover their portion of the spread, just maybe by 1.5 or so it has. Cincinnati, 10 points in week 1, but they do go out there and score 25 in week 2 against what we can consider a decent Kansas City defense, right? So in terms of a total, I see why this number is up there. Like we saw the Patriots and the Jets at 45.5, and then the other Monday Night Football games at 45.5 as well. Or actually, Patriots Jets, I think it was like 47, 48, right? But nonetheless, I'm saying the reason why this is up at 47, I do understand. Both these teams have kind of been beating around their portion of that number. But when we look at some pace stats, and I know a lot of people hate on NFL pace and whatnot, like in terms of plays per game and all that, because it's so subjective towards what happens in that game and relative to that. But I do think it helps and is worth looking at. So Washington right now, in terms of offensive plays per game, they're just sitting in the middle of the pack. And like I said, a lot of factors, how good the other team is they're playing and blah, 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 impact this, but still worth noting. Cincinnati, though, 9th fewest in terms of their offensive plays per game. Washington does a lot of no huddle. In fact, they're like nearly doubled, again, only through 2 weeks, doubled the percent of no huddle plays than no huddle percentage, than any other team out there. Cincinnati at like 3% no huddle. So they take their time. Both teams pretty slow in terms of seconds per play as well. So until I see a game like maybe the Bengals do go off in this game, right? Until I see what I would consider the better offense have a really good offensive performance, I think I'm going to lean towards the under 47.5. Now, the Bengals throw the ball a ton, but still, if they're not running as many plays as usual, I don't necessarily think that that's going to stop the clock and allow more yard plays and more chunk plays and scoring and all that type of a thing. When it comes to red zone success rates and touchdown percentages, the Bengals 10th in the league through games offensively, but defensively, they're a top 8 team in terms of success rate against. Now, again, they played against the Patriots. That definitely helps. Washington, not all that great at punching it in when they are in the red zone. The 8th worst team this year, and their defense kind of towards the bottom of the barrel as well. So we should see a little bit of offsetting there. Like, sure, the Bengals can stop Washington in the red zone, but maybe the Bengals put a couple in. So I don't think that this is going to be like a 17-14 super under game, but based on the pace and based on what we've seen from both of these teams, I'm fairly comfortable in under 47.5. And like I said, we do have some player props to jump into in this video as well. But before we do that, I do want to shout out Underdog. They have a Joe Burrow 0.5 total yards square for this game. Total yards. Joe Burrow can run for a yard. He can QB sneak for a yard. He can throw the ball for a yard, and you will cash this, guys. If you don't know what Underdog is, go ahead and check it out. I have a link in the pinned comment. It's also in the description. You combine 2 or more plays into a slip, like a parlay, aka you could throw this one in there and pretty much have a given, right? And the more you win, the more you get paid out. And the best part is, if you use that link that I'm talking about in the pinned comment of this video, right by the plays, you're going to get up to $1,000 in a deposit bonus. So go ahead and check out Underdog, guys. It's a great player prop app. That link is in the pinned comment. But we're going to flip it over to the outlier screen here for the for the player prop portion of this video. So let's go ahead and jump into that. And the first one we're looking at is going to be Ja'Marr Chase. Now, I kind of like a lot of things from him. I think his yards and receptions are kind of overstated, right? And he actually hasn't even, now this is all without Burrow, but if we look at this year, hasn't looked all that tremendous. But the way you can get him going, he doesn't need to have 7 catches to get going, right? Let's put him in the end zone for plus 120. You can see Washington allowing the 3rd most touchdowns in the league this year. We filter over to wide receiver, the most touchdowns to wide receivers. We saw Godwin get 1. We saw Mike Evans get 2, right? We saw Malik Neighbors. We saw, I think it was Wan'Dale Robinson also get 1. Like, this is a spot in which obviously Washington's allowing plenty of touchdowns. In terms of red zone targets, it still doesn't look all that great for Chase. Just 9. He only has 1 red zone target on the entire year. But he's up there in terms of target percentage, and I don't think Mike Gesicki is going to continue to be the leading guy for this, right? So the idea of having Ja'Marr Chase sort of get going on national television, Monday Night Football, him and Burrow have kind of been at each other's throats. I love the idea of, hey, let's get back on track. This is by far and away probably, well, I guess the Patriots are up there, but the worst team that we've played and the worst defense we've played for sure this year. Let's go out there and punch one in. We can go and toy with these guys. So for plus 120 odds over on DraftKings, Ja'Marr Chase for a touchdown, I like. And again, it's kind of on the idea of getting him going, but you look at his receptions line at 6.5. You look at his receiving yards line, 80.5. That's higher, like 20 yards higher than it was last week. I just think that those are a little overstated, inflated, but to be able to score 1 touchdown, It could be one catch for 2 yards for a touchdown. We cash it for plus 120. So I'm loving Jamar Chase. And again, is he going to go 3 weeks without a touchdown? Potentially, there's some drama going on there, but I like it. Keep an eye on the pinned comment again, guys, to see if we do ultimately roll with this. And the app that I'm using right now is Outlier. You can see we can filter to this game, and you look at all of the player props that are available. And one that we actually found using Outlier was this next one, Joe Burrow over 34.5 pass attempts. I also like his completions number. We'll talk about it in just a second. But if you guys do want access to this app and to this website, use the link in the pinned comment. You're going to get 7 days free of Outlier. I would trust this thing with my life. It's my favorite player prop research tool out there. In fact, you combine this with jumping over on Underdog, you're going to be printing over there. So go check it out, guys. 7-day free trial of Outlier. After that, it's $19.99 a month, and that's if you pay monthly. Like, what a good price. You're not going to get hit with a huge, $1 million bill at the end of the free trial. So go ahead and check it out. But yeah, Joe Burrow, the reason I like both these, we'll start with completions, is going to be that plus money. Washington allowing, the 9th most, so top 10 in terms of completion percentage against. I like that. We haven't really seen Joe Burrow absolutely go off and throw the ball, but even against Kansas City, 36 pass attempts, yet to have that completion number. But again, we're looking at a pretty bad Washington team. And what I like is, so obviously it was against New England. That was one of the worst Joe Burrow games, but he usually stinks in week 1 anyways, right? Then in Kansas City. But let's take a peek at, and I think it was last year, right? His last 5 home games he played, he had 4 of the 5 hit. He was 1 completion away from cashing it. And again, we're talking about a plus 115 play here, right? You look at his passing attempts last year in his home games. He went 5 for 5. So I like that spot. If you look at his last 10, just the one that he didn't cash was the one against New England this year, and he was only a few off the pace there. So Joe Burrow, maybe we split some sort of a unit, maybe do half unit on his over 34.5 pass attempts, half unit on his over in completions. They are high numbers, but again, I kind of want to drill through to you guys that we're looking at plus 100 on an MGM, right? Minus odds everywhere else, and then especially this pass completion, like a plus 115 play that even Caesars has it in the minus odds. Like, we're getting some value here early. So do I think that this is an absolute lock? No, it's much like the Chase play that we already showed, right? He has not much to show for it, but for plus 120, that's now 3 plus money plays that we're looking at from a player prop perspective. And like I've said a million times in this video, do keep an eye on the pinned comment, because we might think of something or come up with something throughout the next few days and toss it in there. So make sure to go ahead and check that out. But our last one, and it's going to be I don't know exactly what we want here, but if I were to roll this, it'd be some way, shape, or form fading Zach Moss. Now, I don't necessarily want to sit here and say that this is a given. Again, nothing that I talk about is a lock. You can always fade me. But Washington's issues have been through the air, not on the ground. Why is Joe Burrow going to say, hey, here you go, Zach Moss, let's go win this game? I don't think so. 9 of his last 10 games, he stayed under this number. Now, obviously, that's with a lot with Indianapolis, but the 2 games this season, 9 attempts and 12 attempts. You have Brown kind of getting 3 or 4 per game as well. So under 13.5 attempts, I don't mind. I might like his under 51.5 yards even more. Washington, you can see just middle of the pack in terms of rushing yards allowed. His rushing plus receiving jumps really high to 69.5. So maybe there's some value there, but Washington against running backs are actually allowing the 26th, I guess the 5th most or 6th most. So that could keep it off. But I like the idea of, look at how much value we're getting. So his receiving yards line is 13.5, right? His rushing yards line is 51.5. So essentially we should be looking at a 64.5 rushing plus receiving. It's at 69.5, so that's a little mispriced. So this may be a good sort of move there. And that is, I also, one little throw in there, I kind of looked at Zach Ertz's receptions, but it's at 3.5 for some serious plus money. In fact, we can find it really quickly, showing you exactly how we can use Outlier, right? So Zach Ertz, we can go into anything here. I went to his receptions, and you can see hit 4 receptions last week, plus 135. I don't necessarily mind it, but Cincinnati has been decent against the pass. Again, their issues on the ground. So that's something I consider. But overall, guys, those are going to be the player props kind of spots that I'm thinking of right now. As always, kind of open-ended, right? Keep an eye on the pinned comment to see what we ultimately end up rolling with. But to recap here, I'll sound the psycho alert alarm again. Washington plus the points is my spread lean, but I'm not really infatuated by that. I just really don't like the idea of Cincinnati minus 7.5. In terms of a total, I don't mind that under. And then from a player prop perspective, Jamar Chase touchdown, Joe Burrow kind of completions and attempts, and then Zach Moss to some degree fading him overall. And then if you want to throw in Zach Ertz receptions or yards or something like that, maybe a touchdown from Zach Ertz as well. But guys, if you made it this far into the video, go ahead and comment 14. Like I said at the beginning, I appreciate the hell out of everything that you guys have done for me, but even just like the community that we're building here, right? I tell you guys all the time, I'm a dummy with a camera and a microphone, giving my thoughts on a sports pick and sports game. Like, that's an amazing spot to be in, and I owe you guys that. So appreciate the hell out of you guys. Comment 14 if you made it this far. Let me know what you're rolling with in the comments as well. I love seeing spots from you guys, and I'll even comment on some of them if I'm riding with them or if I like it. So go ahead and drop those in the comments. But yeah, I'll leave it with that. I'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.